Discover the incredible story of a shoeless girl chosen by a millionaire CEO from 25 candidates. In the heart of a small, struggling town, a barefooted girl named Lila stood tall, her infectious smile cutting through the gray skies. With every fresh tomato, cucumber, and squash she handed out at the family vegetable stand, she brought a splash of color to her world dominated by hardship. Raised by her single mother, who wore her exhaustion like a badge of honor while fighting a relentless illness, Lila learned early on that strength blooms from adversity. Each customer that left their home empty-handed with a bag full of produce seemed to echo the love and compassion Lila inherited from her mother. But beyond the stand and the warmth she spread, Lila dreamt of something bigger, an education, a life that transcended the sticky floor of the local diner where her mother worked double shifts. When millionaire CEO Robert Emerson announced a mentorship program aimed at uplifting youth like her, Lila's heart raced with hope. In glossy pamphlets, rich kids flaunted their designer shoes and polished futures, a stark contrast to her bare feet, but Lila knew she had more to offer than anyone realized. She filled out her application with trembling hands, pouring her heart onto each line, determined to show the world that worth isn't measured by money or shoes. But the moment she stepped into the selection process, the excitement curdled into something dark. Lila stood among 24 others, and whispers rippled through the crowd, sneers masked as laughter when they caught sight of her shoeless feet. "Look at her, doesn't she know this is for serious candidates?" one girl scoffed, her polished red nails glistening under the fluorescent lights. Lila felt the weight of judgment bearing down on her, mixing with fears and doubts, but she stood firm, her heart racing with the fire of determination. Weeks rolled on. Perhaps it was her resilience, perhaps her raw authenticity, but soon, Robert Emerson took notice. His sharp eyes, used to reading boardroom strategies, warmed as he observed Lila. Every time she spoke, every question she answered, she lit up the room. She wore her truth like armor, her charm shined brighter than any designer label. But then came the day when everything changed. An email appeared that struck like lightning. Lila was deemed unsuitable due to her socioeconomic background. Torn between disbelief and heartache, her chest tightened, and tears threatened to spill. But instead of hiding, Lila felt the swell of injustice ignite within her. She decided to confront Robert Emerson at the final judging event. Standing at the podium, her bare feet planted firmly on the stage, she looked out at the sea of faces, an audience full of uncertainty and guarded privilege. A deep breath filled her lungs as she summoned the courage to speak. Success isn't defined by the shoes we wear. It's about the journeys we take, the struggles we carry, and the heart we put into everything we do. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The silence that followed her words was electric. A palpable tension filled the room, it stirred something deep within everyone present, forcing them to confront their own biases and preconceived notions. Lila stood there, a beacon of truth and love amid a sea of privilege, knowing the lives of her friends and family depended on this very moment. Would her voice be enough to break the barriers? Would this bold stand change everything for her and so many others like her? The answer hung in the air, heavy with promise. Leaving readers yearning to discover how far Lila's courage would carry her and her community. Lila felt the weight of the moment settle around her like a thick fog. For a moment, she wondered if anyone truly heard her. But then she caught a flicker in Robert Emerson's eyes, a spark of something she hadn't expected. She could see him leaning forward, his attention caught by her raw passion. The whispers of the crowd faded as if they were trying to welcome her words instead of rejecting them. Change can come from unexpected places, she pressed, her voice echoing slightly in the spacious room. I'm not here for the accolades or to fit in. I'm here to show that we are all worthy, no matter our circumstances. She let her heart pour out, mingling vulnerability with conviction. She wasn't just speaking to Robert, she was speaking to everyone. As she finished her speech, a murmur swept through the audience. Some nodded in agreement, while others seemed taken aback, caught off guard by her sincerity. A woman in the back wiped away a tear, and Lila felt a rush of encouragement at the sight. Maybe she could reach them, maybe she could change minds. Robert's expression softened further, and he stood up slowly. "Thank you, Lila," he said, his voice carrying authority and warmth. "You've reminded us all why we are here." The applause that followed felt like a wave crashing over her, washing away doubt, replacing it with hope. But Lila knew this moment was just the beginning. Could hope turn into something tangible? In the days that followed, Lila found herself at the center of a whirlwind. Media outlets swarmed her, highlighting her determination. She could hardly believe it, her story creeping into homes far beyond her own town. Yet the attention felt both thrilling and overwhelming. Support came from unexpected places. Donations poured in for her mother's medical bills, strangers offering not just money, but encouragement too. She felt the strength of the community behind her, lifting her up like a tide, yet, shadows still danced around the edges of her newfound spotlight. The other candidates glared at her during their sessions. Their disdain was palpable, it felt like daggers each time she caught their eyes. Lila would often retreat to the quiet of her thoughts, wondering how much longer she could withstand their judgment. But every time she felt weak, she would look down at her bare feet and remember the struggles she had endured. There was power in standing firmly. As she was one evening, as she sat on the steps of her house watching the sunset, her phone buzzed with a notification. An email from Robert. With a shaky hand, she opened it. He wanted to meet her one-on-one. Her heart raced. This could be the turning point. What does he want from me? She whispered to herself. As she prepared for the meeting, Lila could not shake the feeling of trepidation. What if he was simply looking for a story? What if he didn't truly believe in her? Would she be reduced to a charity case, just another sad story in the news cycle? But she also couldn't ignore the thrill. This was her chance to show Robert and the world who she really was. To bring her truth to the forefront. When the day came, Lila stepped into Robert's sleek office, her bare feet meeting the cold, polished floor. His gaze was steady, and the curiosity in his expression set the course for a conversation that would alter not just her future, but the future of many like her. "How can I help you, Lila?" he asked, his voice steady. She took a deep breath, ready to share not just her dreams for herself, but the dreams she had for her community. And in that moment, as she began speaking, everything she believed echoed in her words. Little did she know, this meeting would launch something much bigger than herself, something that would reshape perceptions, and perhaps, change the lives of all those daring enough to walk their own paths, shoeless or not. Could she influence a millionaire CEO to invest in a vision for change? The air was thick with possibility as her journey truly began. The air hummed with tension as Lila glanced around Robert's office. Sleek, modern furniture and framed accolades adorned the walls, but what caught her attention most was the glimmering statue on his desk, a symbol of success she had only ever dreamed of. In that moment, standing barefooted with a mix of hope and apprehension, Lila felt both small and powerful. "Lila," he prompted again, his voice cutting through her thoughts. "What is your vision for your community?" Taking a deep breath, she leaned forward. "I want to create a safe space for kids who feel lost, like I did. A place where they can dream, learn, and be supported. A community center, where we can offer tutoring, counseling, and programs to nurture their potential." The words flowed out of her like water from a spring, pure and necessary. Robert's brow furrowed, and Lila felt a flutter of anxiety. Had she said too much? But then, something changed in his demeanor. He leaned back, contemplating, and she could see the gears turning in his mind. "That's ambitious," he said slowly, a hint of admiration creeping into his tone. "But ambitious ideas take funding and commitment. How do you plan to secure support?" Lila swallowed hard, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew she was stepping onto delicate ground. I think, if we show our community's strength and spirit, people will want to help. We just need someone to believe in us first, like you did when you started your journey. His eyes twinkled at the mention of his past, and for a moment, Lila could see him as a human being rather than just a CEO. I started with nothing, too, he chuckled, shaking his head. Every success story had struggles behind it. But people need to see those struggles before they can invest. For a split second, Lila felt the weight of that truth. Showing the ugly sides of her past was something she had always shied away from. How would these polished investors react if they saw how raw and vulnerable life could really be? What if we documented your story? Robert suggested, breaking through her thoughts. An authentic portrayal, real people, real challenges. It could create a connection, a reason for others to care. Lila's pulse quickened. The prospect excited her, yet her heart sank just as fast. Sharing her struggles was a daunting task. What if she laid bare her life only to be met with more judgment? Would she be able to harness her pain as a platform for change? I am not sure if I can do that. Her voice trembled, uncertainty spilling from her. What if people think I'm just looking for sympathy? Robert studied her, his expression turning serious. This isn't about sympathy, Lila. It's about authenticity. People connect when they understand someone's truth. If they see resilience and hope in you, that could be what drives them to act. She felt something inside her shift. Perhaps sharing her truth was the very thing that could light a fire under the community's struggles. But would she be strong enough to stand in that light? With each passing moment, the challenge seemed to double. But Lila also saw a flicker of possibility, a chance to give a voice to not just her dreams but the dreams of so many others. I'll think about it, Lila finally said, her heart thudding as she realized the weight of her burden was also a burden to carry. As they wrapped up the meeting, Robert clasped her shoulder, his grip firm and reassuring. You have what it takes, Lila. Trust yourself. Walking out into the bustling world beyond his office doors, Lila felt tethered between excitement and fear. She had a chance to shape something bigger than herself, yet a question lingered: was she truly ready to bare her soul? The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across her path as she plowed through her thoughts. The road ahead was uncertain, but Lila understood that stepping forward meant embracing the unknown, for what awaited her just beyond the horizon could change everything, if she only took the leap. But could she really share her vulnerabilities with the world? The journey to unveiling her truth was only just beginning. The days that followed felt like an endless tide of emotions crashing over her. Each morning, Lila woke up buoyed by resolve, only to find herself swept back into uncertainty by nightfall. Could she really share her past with the world? The answer teetered on the edge of yes and no, creating a swell of anxiety she could barely sit with. Lila found herself pacing the small room she called home, running her fingers along the clutter of overdue bills, mismatched furniture, and reminders of what she wanted to leave behind. The community center she envisioned seemed to dance just out of reach. Every thought about offering hope to others sparked both excitement and fear in equal measure. One fragile afternoon, as the sun filtered through her window like golden strands of hope, she picked up her phone and stared at it. Robert's message lingered, reminding her of their meeting. Hey, Lila. Just wanted to check in. Have you thought more about sharing your story? It was like a tightrope walk. Would she respond? The thought of answering felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, wanting to leap, but fearing the fall. With a deep breath, she replied, her fingers trembling. I'm still thinking about it. It's hard to open up. Immediately, her heart raced. What if he dismissed her fears? What if he thought her not ready enough or unworthy? But Robert replied quickly, his words filled with compassion. Take your time. Just remember, every great change starts with a single story. That phrase rolled around in her mind like a melody, each note encouraging her to explore deeper. A single story, she whispered aloud, feeling the weight of his message. With a newfound sense of purpose, Lila grabbed a notebook and began jotting down memories, pieces of her life filled with both shadows and light. She wrote about the nights spent dodging the dark and the days filled with dreams that chased her like fireflies. Each memory unfolded as a delicate thread, weaving into a tapestry of her lived experience. As the hours slipped by, she could feel the heaviness in her chest lift. The act of writing made her feel less isolated, more connected to what she had survived. She recalled the faces of kids like her, lost and hungry for guidance, their spirits dimmed by their circumstances. That evening, Lila went for a walk in the nearby park, the warm breeze wrapping around her like an embrace. She spotted a group of children playing, their laughter a symphony of innocence. At that moment, she realized that this wasn't just about her story. It was about giving those kids a chance to tell their own, to show the world their own brilliance. Determined, Lila pulled out her phone and sent another message to Robert. "I'm ready to share my story. I think it could help others. Let's do this." His reply came almost instantly, filled with that supportive energy she so desperately needed. "That's amazing, Lila. Let's set up a time to plan out how we can make this happen. Together, we'll create something powerful." Yet, even as excitement bubbled through her, a flicker of fear lingered. Would her story resonate? Would she be enough? That night, as Lila lay in bed, she gazed up at the ceiling, feeling vulnerable yet invigorated by her decision. The path ahead still felt clouded with uncertainty, but there was a light now, a glimmer of hope guiding her. And as she drifted off to sleep, she thought about the conversation that awaited her with Robert and the potential ripples from her truth. But when morning came, would her courage withstand the scrutiny it might evoke? The question hung in the air like the morning dew, awaiting the warmth of the sun to melt it away into the day. Lila woke up the next morning with sunlight streaming through her window, casting a golden glow over her room. It felt like a new dawn, but uncertainty nipped at her heels. She could almost feel the weight of Robert's expectations pressing down on her. Would she be ready for their meeting? With an anxious heartbeat, she swung her legs out of bed. As she got dressed, her mind flitted to the details of the day ahead. They had agreed to meet at a local cafe, buzzing with life and energy. Lila couldn't decide if the ambience would be comforting or overwhelming. Would the hum of voices drown hers out? Her stomach fluttered like a trapped butterfly. She needed to remember that she was not alone in this. Yes, she was telling her story, but it was for the sake of others like her, those kids who needed hope, guidance, and the chance to rewrite their narratives. This thought brought a smile to her face, a flicker of courage amid the anxiety. When she arrived at the cafe, the smell of rich coffee and warm pastries filled the air. Lila took a deep breath, letting the aroma ground her. She found a small table near the window, a place where she could watch the world flow by. Moments later, Robert entered, his warm smile cutting through her nerves. "Hey there. You look ready to take on the world," he said, his voice a blend of encouragement and excitement. "I hope so," she chuckled, though her palms were still clammy as she greeted him. They found a rhythm easily, discussing their ideas for the community center, building on each other's thoughts like musicians in a duet. But soon enough, the conversation took a turn, prompting Robert to lean in a bit closer. "So, Lila, have you thought about how you want to share your story?" His sincere gaze made her stomach flip again. Suddenly, her breath felt shallow, and she realized how significantly this moment weighed on her. It wasn't just about telling her past, it was about owning it. Had she actually come to terms with it? Each heartbeat echoed her doubts. What if no one wants to hear it? What if they don't care? She found herself asking, her voice smaller than intended. Robert shook his head gently. "You have no idea how powerful your words can be. There's strength in vulnerability. People relate to authenticity. Your story is what sets you apart." She nodded, absorbing his words. A part of her felt the urge to backtrack, to retreat into the comfort of anonymity. Yet another part, the bolder, growing part knew that true bravery lay in sharing her scars, in illuminating the path for others who might be lost in darkness. As they sketched out ideas for the community center, Lila could feel a fierce determination rising within her. She envisioned a space brimming with life, a haven where stories could be exchanged and hope could thrive. Their planning flowed seamlessly, a dance of creativity. But Lila still felt the weight of the conversation looming. What if people don't react well? She finally voiced, her heartbeat quickening with the possibility of judgment. Then we learn and adapt, Robert replied, his eyes steady. But I believe in your story. I believe in your purpose. Those words sank in deep, yet the apprehension bubbled just below the surface. How would her past reactions shape her future? Lila knew they were still on the brink of something significant, something transformative. As they wrapped up their meeting and stepped into the daylight, a cascade of thoughts flooded her mind. She glanced back at the cafe, a potential witness to her unfolding journey. When could she begin to let her reality be known? The thought gripped her heart, both terrifying and exhilarating. Uncertainty lingered, like the feeling before a storm, a tempest of emotions, waiting to break. But what awaited on the other side? Would she find freedom, or would she feel a wave of regret? The sun hung high in the sky, spilling warmth over Lila as she walked back home, her mind swirling with possibilities. The hum of conversation from the cafe still echoed in her ears, mingling with Robert's steady encouragement. But with every step, a new layer of doubt wrapped itself around her heart. She paused at a park bench, the wooden slats still warm from the afternoon sun. Children laughed and played in the distance, their carefree joy a sharp contrast to the heaviness resting on her chest. What would it be like to share her experiences with them? Could her story hold the same kind of magic that watching those kids brought her? Lila pulled her phone from her pocket, staring at the screen as if seeking answers within its blank glow. She hadn't even taken a deep breath when it buzzed with a notification. It was Robert, his message appearing like a bright spark in her uncertainty. Don't forget, you're telling this story for them, remember? Everyone deserves to be seen. His words lifted her spirits, but could she really be the catalyst for change? As she walked the final stretch home, she recalled her past moments of vulnerability. Every time she had shared her story with a friend, even her family, there had always been a hint of judgment in their eyes. Would this time be different? The thought of an audience, a room full of faces, made her panic rise. The walls of her home loomed in front of her, their comforting embrace like a hug from an old friend. Inside, she felt the urge to retreat to her safe cocoon, yet she also yearned for freedom. Freedom from the shadows lingering in her past. She took a deep breath and opened the door, her mother's voice floated down from the kitchen, warm and welcoming. Lila. Come help with dinner. Instantly, the smell of garlic and herbs danced in the air, pulling her into a familiar rhythm. Coming. Lila called back, her heartbeat slow and steady once again as she approached the kitchen. The scent offered solace, yet beneath the comfort was a lingering desire to break free from the confines of her life. As they cooked together, stirring and chopping in sync, Lila's mother shared stories of her own struggles, her own fears. You know, it's okay to be scared. It's brave to admit that to yourself, she said, her hands moving deftly, hardly missing a beat. Do you think I can do it? Lila asked suddenly, her voice almost a whisper amidst the clattering pots and pans. Her mother paused, the knife resting against the cutting board as she turned to face her. The warmth in her eyes shone brighter than the kitchen light. I think you can do anything you set your heart to, Lila. You've always been stronger than you realize. A smile danced on Lila's lips, but her nerves still lingered like echoes of a haunting melody. She wanted to believe her mother, even as an uneasy feeling clawed at her insides. What if her mother was wrong? That evening, Lila found herself sitting in silence in her bedroom, the dim light casting long shadows across the walls. She stared at her reflection in the mirror, taking a moment to really see herself. Am I ready? She murmured to her reflection. But as the clock ticked softly in the background, another thought pierced her heart. What if Robert was right? What if sharing her story could make a difference, not just for herself, but for those kids, for those searching for hope? That hope flickered like a candle's flame, but it was overshadowed by the fear of the unknown. And deep down, she knew she would have to decide. Will she step forward into the light, or remain in the shadows that had kept her company for so long? Before she could wrestle further with her thoughts, her phone buzzed again, snapping her out of her reverie. It was Robert. Ready for tomorrow? This is the start of something incredible. Her breath caught in her throat. What awaited her on the other side of that meeting? Would she embrace the chaos or run back to safety? The question lingered, heavy and urgent in the stillness of her room. What was she truly ready for? Lila lay on her bed, the weight of Robert's words clinging to her chest like a thick fog. Tomorrow felt monumental and terrifying all at once. The night passed slowly, every tick of the clock amplifying her racing thoughts. Her mind played over scenes of what might happen. She could stand in front of a crowd, her heart pounding, her voice barely audible. Or maybe, and she had to cling to this image, she would inspire others just by being brave enough to speak. As dawn broke, the golden light spilled through her window, illuminating her room and coaxing her from sleep. Shadows retreated, leaving behind a hint of clarity. She thought of the kids she had watched playing in the park, their laughter echoing in her memory. With a jolt, Lila realized that she wanted to be a source of joy, a beacon of hope for them and for herself. After a hurried breakfast, she dressed with purpose, each item feeling like armor against her insecurities. A simple yet vibrant dress served as her battle gear, a reminder to herself that colors could brighten even the darkest fears. Her mother paused, a knowing smile spreading across her face as Lila stepped into the kitchen. "You look radiant," her mother exclaimed, pride painting her voice. "Thanks. Just trying to channel some confidence," Lila replied, grinning back. As she ate, they shared light-hearted stories, laughter filling the spaces that anxiety left behind. It was a moment of warmth. This, she thought, is what life should be about. With just an hour to go, Lila found herself pacing the living room, nerves fluttering in her stomach. Her phone buzzed again. It was Robert. "Hey. Let us meet an hour early. I have a surprise for you." The curious spark in his message cut through her apprehension, igniting a flicker of excitement. She grabbed her bag, ready to face whatever the day had in store. The streets buzzed with life as she made her way to the cafe, each step taking her further from doubt. When she arrived, Robert stood outside, a wide smile lighting up his face. "You're just in time," he called out. He opened the door to a small, cozy space adorned with colorful art. The soft ambience felt welcoming and familiar. "I wanted you to meet someone," he continued, leading her to a table where a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair sat. "Lila, this is Paul. He is the owner of a local nonprofit focused on helping children tell their stories." Lila froze, her heart pounding. "Hi," she managed, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside her. Paul's eyes sparkled with warmth. "I've heard a lot about you. Robert speaks highly of your passion for storytelling. Do you know what tomorrow is about?" She nodded, trying to contain her excitement. "I'm going to share my story." "Then you're already a champion," he replied, sincerity weaving through his words. "Stories have power. Don't ever underestimate them." Just then, Robert leaned in, voice low but filled with enthusiasm. "I thought you might like to hear about Paul's work. It aligns perfectly with your message. You could even collaborate." Lila's breath quickened. The thought of partnership, of making a difference, sent heat flooding through her. This was it, the validation she had yearned for. She was no longer just Lila, she was a storyteller ready to break her silence and share her truth. As they spoke about possibilities, Lila felt the chains of fear begin to loosen. Inspiration sparked within her, revealing a way forward she hadn't anticipated. But as their conversation deepened, another question bubbled within her. Would she have the courage to embrace this chapter of her life, one that could ripple out to touch others? It was time to discover what kind of stories could emerge when she finally stepped beyond the barriers of her past. Just as excitement surged, a new message chimed in her pocket. Hesitant, she pulled out her phone, heart racing at the thought of what it could be. Lila, be brave. We're all waiting for your story. Tomorrow was close, and now, it felt more daunting than ever. Would she rise to the challenge, or would fear hold her back one last time? Lila's heart raced as she stared at the screen, the words flashing like a neon sign in her mind. The thrill of hope clashed with an undertow of fear, tugging at her insides. The message was a lifeline, but it also felt heavy. What did it really mean to be brave? Paul's voice drew her back. You know, stories can change lives, Lila. Yours has the potential to resonate with so many. A sense of urgency accompanied his words, igniting something deep within her. Have you thought about what you want to say? Robert chimed in, leaning forward eagerly. Holding her breath, she closed her eyes momentarily, thinking of the moments that shaped her. Her childhood memories rushed in a jumble of laughter, tears, and the bittersweet music of growing up. I want to share not just the struggles, but the small victories too. How we can find light even in darkness, she finally replied, her voice steadying. Then that's it. Robert exclaimed. That's your story. Who you are, what you've overcome. It's inspiring. People need to hear it. The encouragement poured into her like sunshine after a storm, filling spaces that once felt hollow. What if I'm not enough? She whispered, vulnerability creeping in again. Paul reached across the table, his hand warm and comforting. You are enough, Lila. Each story has a unique spark. Yours is filled with resilience. Share that light, he urged gently. As she prepared to leave the cafe, the gravity of the next day settled onto her shoulders. A part of her wanted to retreat, to hide away from the spotlight and the critical eyes of strangers. But another part, the one awakened by Robert's excitement and Paul's validation, pushed her forward. She could feel the flickers of bravery igniting within her. On her walk home, Lila's mind churned with ideas gleaned from their conversation. What if she did share her story in ways she had never thought possible? She returned to her room, filled with adrenaline, jotting down thoughts and memories that rushed through her. Each word on the page felt like peeling back another layer of fear. The night crept in, but rather than luring her into a web of anxiety, it wrapped around her like a comforting blanket. Lila glimpsed her reflection in the mirror, her eyes sparkled with determination. You can do this, she whispered to herself. You're not alone. You've got this. But as she drifted off to sleep, another worry surfaced. What if once she stepped onto that stage, she couldn't find her voice? The thought clawed at her, threatening to pull her back into doubt. Would the nerves silence her story before it even began? Morning light broke through her window, a warm glow that felt like a promise. But Lila didn't have time to bask in it. Her phone buzzed insistently, snapping her out of her thoughts again. Lila, remember it's okay to be vulnerable, the text from Robert read. Embrace it. That's where the connection lies. Reading those words ignited a fire within her. It was true. The moments of vulnerability were where authenticity shined, the parts that made people relate, that made stories feel real, and just like that, a plan began to form in her mind. If she could embrace the uncomfortable, the raw truth, perhaps she could turn her fears into fuel. But again, the haunting question lingered. Could she truly unleash the full power of her story? Did she have what it takes to stand in front of the crowd and let her true self be seen? With uncertainty stirring in her stomach, she slipped on her shoes, feeling the cool fabric of her dress against her skin. It was time to step into the unknown and discover whether her voice would carry amidst the fluttering hopes and fears of others. Little did she know, a strange twist awaited her as she made her way to the venue. As she turned the corner, she noticed a crowd already gathering, excited whispers buzzing like fireflies in the air. Are those cameras? She wondered aloud, her heart racing. Was this day about to become something she never anticipated? Lila blinked as the headline blared from the banner above the entrance. Her heart thudded in her chest, caught between excitement and sheer panic. This was no ordinary talk, this was an event. A showcase. And she was supposed to be the main act. What in the world, she murmured, a wave of disbelief washing over her. She stepped closer, feeling the buzz of anticipation thrumming through the crowd. Banners decorated the space, and strategically placed cameras captured every eager face. Suddenly, a voice rang out. Lila. Over here. It was Paul, waving her over with a beaming smile. She felt a warmth flood her cheeks as she spotted him amidst the throng of onlookers. Was this truly happening? Did you know about all this? She asked, disbelief etched in her tone as she joined him. Not until this morning. He chuckled, glancing at the crowd, then back at her. But they must have thought you had a compelling story to tell. Look at the turnout. Lila's throat tightened. What if they expected too much? What if she didn't deliver? I'm not ready for this, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. You are more than ready, he reassured her, his eyes steady and encouraging. Just be yourself. Share your truth. Remember Robert's words. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a hum of anticipation swirling around her. Lila could feel the weight of their eyes, the energy flickering like electric sparks. She spotted the cameras, how many people would be watching. Her stomach twisted at the thought, anxiety raising its head once more. Remember, Paul said, pulling her back from her spiraling thoughts, this isn't just about you, it's about connecting with people who might need to hear your story. You might just inspire someone. As the hosts announced the start of the event, Lila took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. Only a few moments passed before she saw Robert moving through the crowd toward her, his expression a mixture of excitement and concern. There you are. I was starting to worry. He laughed but quickly sobered as he looked into her eyes. Are you okay? Not really. What if I mess up? What if I can't find the right words? She confessed, feeling the tears prick at the corners of her eyes. Hey, he said, placing a hand on her shoulder. You don't have to be perfect. Just be real. That's what people want. No script, just you. With each passing moment, Lila's breathing steadied. She felt something deep within her shift, an inch of resolve nudged forward. The nervous energy morphed into something else, determination. As they ushered her toward the stage, the noise of the crowd faded, the world narrowing to just her and the spotlight waiting to embrace her. Her heart sang with the potential, each beat echoing Robert's words, Paul's encouragement, and the flickers of bravery she had felt throughout her journey. Let your light shine, Lila, she whispered to herself, stepping one foot forward, determined to make her voice heard, but just as she reached the stage, a sudden shout broke the air. Hey, wait! She should be careful. A girl rushed from the back, her face a mix of urgency and fear. What are you doing? The crowd turned, surprised murmurs bouncing back and forth. As Lila stood firmly at the precipice of her moment, the unexpected voice brought a rush of adrenaline. Who was this girl, and why did she seem to be so concerned? Lila's heartbeat quickened not just from the anticipation of her speech, but from the sudden shift in atmosphere. Something deep inside her stirred, igniting the fire of curiosity. What was this about to unravel? Listen, I can't let you go out there without knowing. The girl hesitated, pulling Lila's focus even tighter. A million thoughts raced through Lila's mind as uncertainty loomed in the air. What was coming next? Would this moment change everything for her? The girl took a deep breath, her eyes shimmering with a blend of sincerity and urgency. You don't have to do this alone, Lila. Look at all these people. They need to hear your story, yes, but every single one of us is here for a reason. Don't just shine for yourself, shine for them too. Lila felt a rush of warmth. The way this stranger spoke ignited something she had almost overlooked in the chaos of expectations. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about every kid who felt lost or trapped, every dreamer kicking down the struggle of circumstance. The crowd shifted as they processed the girl's words, whispers rippling through like a wave. Slowly, she turned to face them, her heart pounding in unison with the silence that had settled in. She saw faces, so many faces, anxious, hopeful, and so full of promise. Lila swallowed her fear, longing to connect with them. "You're right," she shouted, the words bursting forth like a floodgate. "I'm here because I want to share what it means to rise up from struggle. But I need each of you with me. We're just getting started. Together, let us build spaces for our voices to ring out." The energy in the room shifted, transforming from tense silence to a vibrant current of hope. The girl beamed, as if reflecting something that had caught light. "Yes. That's it, Lila," she shouted back, an ally in a sea of strangers. Robert watched, his eyes glistening with pride. He stepped forward and joined her on stage, his presence amplifying the energy radiating from Lila's revelation. "You're not just an example of resilience. You are a catalyst for change, and every moment we spend sharing our stories pulls us all closer together." With a chorus of cheers rising from the crowd, Lila took a deep breath and continued, the tremors of fear now replaced with fierce determination. "Change doesn't come from one person standing alone. When we gather our voices and show up for each other, that's when real power ignites. Together, we rise." Cheers erupted, loud and authentic. It felt like a wave crashing over her, an embrace from the community she had longed to uplift. Each roar of approval fortified her spirit, melting away the last vestiges of doubt. In that moment, Lila felt a connection coursing through her, a bond woven from shared experiences, struggles, and the triumphant desire for brighter futures. This was the moment she had envisioned, not just for herself, but for every soul seeking a beacon in the darkness. She could see the faces now, each one reflecting stories of their own. There were kids with shoeless feet, just like hers, and others whose lucky charms were their resilience and dreams. Those faces filled her heart with a radiant glow, the kind born from unity, empathy, and fierce love. After her speech, she stepped down from the stage, the crowd parting like waves as they surrounded her. Lila embraced them, one by one, tears of joy pouring down her cheeks. Voices mingled in a perfect harmony of hope and commitment to action. That night, her phone buzzed with messages. Paul and Robert's words washed over her like a soothing balm. "The world is waiting for you, Lila. Together we make history. You've sparked a movement." As she sat with her mother sharing all the love and encouragement flooding in, Lila realized this journey was never only hers. It belonged to everyone willing to take off their shoes and show up together. She understood that the road ahead was still uncertain, but her heart soared with anticipation. Tomorrow, they would launch initiatives for the community center, they would document stories and connect neighborhoods. They would gather resources to build a program where kids could thrive, share their dreams, and lift one another up. The darkness of struggle was gone, but Lila now carried the light of possibility with her. With emotional warmth settling deep within, she smiled at her mother. "I can't believe we did this," and tucked her arm around her, holding tight to the love that had fueled her resilience. "Remember, you're equipped to change the world," her mother whispered, her voice as steady as Lila's newfound confidence. And as they sat together, surrounded by the warmth of hope, Lila realized that real transformation had only just begun. Now was the time. You need to subscribe now to catch the next chapter of these incredible stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let others feel this inspiration. Comment your reactions and feelings about how Lila's journey transformed before your eyes. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to be part of this uplifting story.